Welcome to episode 2 of the Open Wound Club. This is my second episode, and I am here on the table because I was quite conflicted because I wanted to do two things at once. I wanted to have my little creative session, and I also wanted to film a video for you guys because it is Friday, so the beginning of the weekend, which means I have a little bit more time in my hands to really focus on this project. So I decided, you know what? Why not do two things at once? So we're gonna paint. I have a candle to set good intentions. I have my little paintbrushes and my watercolors and my water cup. And for a snack, which I highly recommend you guys go and get because this is going to be a long episode, I have some popcorn, freshly popped, and I have my water. I'm so excited. I have my notes app on my phone. That's what you just saw me do, just like scrolling, because I wrote up a bunch of things that I wanted to discuss. And I also listed down all the questions that I received, which I'm so grateful for. Some of them are super funny, some of them are tough. So this episode is going to be a little bit serious, but we're going to paint, we're going to eat, and we're just going to chat. And for aesthetic reasons, I have a candle to, again, because this is our good focus, okay? And I wish this had a scent. It does not have a scent. It's very faint, so it's not completely cozy, but it looks cozy, it's aesthetic. I'm so excited. Now, before I get started, I want to tell you a little story about my book. This book, my sketchbook. Now, also I love ASMR, so I will be like tapping and doing that. So, yeah, so this is my sketchbook. I have not been painting or drawing or doing any art for about a few years now because I just lost interest, and I was also in a really bad place mentally, so I did not feel inspired to create. But recently, even though I'm still going through that, now it's become a lot more easier that I have had this and my just some random watercolors. But I made the decision to just randomly pick up a sketchbook from the store, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna force myself to do this because I know it'll help me. It may not help me right now, but I know it will, and I know that I will be so satisfied when I'm finishing a piece of art. All of this, so far I have about like, I think 5 maybe paintings, as you can see. So fun. Pigeons. I'm not a great artist. I do not know how to draw for the life of me, but I still do it because it makes me happy. And I don't think you need to be good at anything to do something. Okay? Okay. You can get better, and these are more my research. And this is the art piece that I'm currently working on. Okay, so what's really cool about this, the concept of the paintings in here are all artworks dedicated to specific poems from my upcoming book. As I mentioned, I'm releasing a book of poetry soon, which I'm super excited about, and all of my original art is in reference to some of the things that I wrote about. So I'm very, very excited to see how long it takes for me to fill up this entire book, because within about, I don't know, 2 weeks I've had this book, I've already made like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish paintings, 6, I guess. So I'm pretty sure I will be able to finish this pretty quickly. And what I love about it is every time I finished a piece of art, I was immediately inspired to create another piece. So all of this is from my brain, and I'm so excited, and I can't wait to just sit, talk, and have a little one-on-one time with you. Yeah, I'm excited to just chill with you and talk about heavy things. And if you are doing something right now, please do so as well. I don't want to be doing this alone because I want you to feel included. So paint with me if you want, read with me, eat with me, do all the things. I will put a disclaimer that in the beginning of the video, or even now, that today's topic is going to be heavy. My intention with this podcast was to discuss heavy topics, as I mentioned last episode, but today will be a bit heavy because I will be talking about my mental health and just my experience as a brown girl who doesn't fit in to her culture. Yes. So let's get started. I have some points that I wrote down on my notebook, and I'm excited to share just everything with you guys. I'm so grateful because the people who have asked these questions, majority of them are some of my closest friends, and I'm just so like, I don't know, I'm just so moved that they asked me these questions because it really proves to me that they care. And the hardest thing about living with depression is me having intrusive thoughts, and one of my most difficult thought is the fact that no one cares about me, or no one cares enough to talk to me or ask me about certain things. And this just diminished that, like the questions that some of y'all have asked me. So I'm so excited. So yeah, I will be discussing from personal experience. Mind you, disclaimer, I am not a professional of any sort. I do not wish to give you information that will work. I'm not saying it will. This is just my experience. I am here just to be someone that can comfort you, someone that you can hear from. So whatever I say, do not take it as professional advice, because again, I have no credentials yet to deny or confirm whether some of the methods and things that I have done is proven to be helpful. I mean, I know everyone is individual, everyone has their own things going on, and if you feel like at any moment with anything that I've said in this episode, if you feel like you need to if you feel like you need to talk to someone and get proper advice, if you feel like the question has not been clearly answered, I highly recommend you go and see someone and talk to someone who would be more informed and better informed to give you what it is that you're looking for. Because I'm just a human being that wants to make videos and talk to you. So yeah, I think one of the most isolating experiences a person can ever go through is realizing that their personality or their character is fundamentally does not fit into their environment, especially the environment that they were born into. As a kid who did not know that she was depressed or anxious or just filled with all of this, I always knew that I was sort of the odd one out. I mean, I definitely wasn't. Like, I come from a big family. We all are different in our own special ways, but I always knew that I just didn't fit in physically, mentally, intrinsically, you know? So I always knew that I was different in some sense because I would always just question everything. I was very curious, and I still am. And that's one of the qualities that I deeply admire and love about myself, is that I'm so curious about anything and everything. And I love to learn about anything and everything, especially if I have a question that is just bothering me. And I was just always very curious, and I was always questioning everything and anything. And so much so that my mom used to always tell me, "You have such a big mouth, shut up." And I was like, "Baby, I can't. I just need to know these things." So I always knew I was very different. I was always alone. I never really felt close to some of the women in my family, because again, there's a huge age gap too. So when they were growing up, I was maybe about like 5, 10 years old, and they were already, teenagers, about to be adults. Now they're all adults. So yeah, and I am officially the only girl still living with her family at the moment. All my other cousins are all boys. So I never really fit in with that crowd as well. So I was just kind of always by myself. I struggled a lot socially, but not in a communicative sense, in a social setting. Yeah, in a, because I would just not want to do things that everyone else wanted to do. Like I never really went on like bouncy houses or climbed things and like, do like activities, right? I would always just, I always prefer to just stay on land because also I do fear heights, so that's the main reason. But I also just wanted to be by myself, more than anything. Like I wanted to just decompress and be alone or just take a walk and do something chill. I never wanted to do any kinds of sport and stuff, and I just was not really interested in that. And more often than not, I found myself just being alone with my thoughts and being alone with my feelings and yeah, my feelings and myself really. And majority of my life or my childhood, I would say, was spent just trying to understand what was going on with me because I knew fundamentally that something was wrong or something wasn't, or that something was bothering me, and I did not know, what it was. I always felt like there was just this big stone on my chest, and that feeling, now I just feel like I've gotten used to it. But when I was younger, it just felt so miserable because I did not know why I would wake up in cold sweats some nights and why I felt just very scared of myself and felt like I was just, losing control. And sometimes my cousins would catch me like freaking out and they'd be like, yo, what's going on? I'm like, nothing. And I would like run away and hide in my room and just cry because I was like, what the heck is wrong with me? So yeah, majority of I guess you could say that I didn't really have a normal childhood, depending on what your version of normal is. Like again, I was by myself a lot, and whenever I went out and did social things, I wanted to be by myself. I did not want to interact. I didn't want to be in the presence of others. I just always wanted to be myself. Which I know might sound hard to believe for some of you because some of you in real life who know me know that I'm a very extroverted person. I love to talk to everyone. I love to, know what's happening with everyone. So I'm pretty sure that this was maybe a little weird or shocking to hear because that is totally not how I am right now. I am more open and more sociable and I always want to do things with people. So very different. But I realized that I was not this way with people that were not related to me. I was only this way with my family. Whenever we would go out together, I would say yes, by the way. I would go out with them if they had invited me to things. I would say yes. But I just always felt miserable in their company because they have never, in my opinion, they have never just had a sound conversation where we were all, peacefully speaking about peacefully peacefully speaking about the issues that we have or just about life itself. It was always pick pointing and complaining about one person the next, and it was just always a very negative environment no matter where we went. And in a way I kind of envied the boys in my family because they had an outlet where they had an outlet or they had an escape where it would be like if we went up to a park, they would just, go roller skating, rollerblading. They didn't have to deal with the family, right? They were just hanging with their clique and, they just had fun, normal kid stuff. And then I was the only, at this time, I was like, I think the only one that was still in the family. Like, some of my female cousins, some of my female cousins had just left for uni and work and things like that, so it was just me and like all the boys, and they went and did their own thing, and then I was stuck with the older folk, with my parents, with my aunts and uncles. And as much as I enjoyed their company for a bit of time, it just got so exhausting. Like I hated that every interaction or every memory that I have with them always led to something negative. Like, as much as I was happy to, have some bonding time with my family, it was always just negative, and I hated that so much, and it just weighed me down even more. And because of them speaking so negatively and so just insensitively about other people, it made me feel even more claustrophobic and withdrawn, because I always wanted to talk about I always wanted to talk about my feelings to them. I always wanted to. I always wanted to talk, to ask, and open up and say, hey, there is something wrong with me. Do you maybe have advice? But I just never got the opportunity to do that, because every conversation would be, oh, she's crazy, don't listen to her, or he's crazy, don't listen to him, or don't follow this type of advice, don't follow this, don't do that, it's haram, it's forbidden, it's sinful, like anything. I would think, like, based on the examples of conversations I've given you, right, you would think that they would be talking about, like, like really serious stuff, but no, it was just, it would just be something so silly, like, oh, they would point at people, uh, especially people who were not part of their religion. They would point at their way of dressing or their way of behavior in public, and they would be like, yeah, no, do not be like this, because she's a slut, or don't be like this because she's very this, or he's very that, or he, and it's like their reasonings behind the comments they make are so stupid and dumb. And mind you, I'm like maybe 9 years old, and I just want to have a good time. Like, what benefit is this going to give me, you telling me that you don't like the way a person looks or acts? In my opinion, I just want to do something fun that isn't going to make me feel even worse about myself. So when you're in that situation, and that's been your life consistently for about, what, 20 years now? I'm going to be 20 in July. So yeah, when that's been your life for a long time, it just feels like you can't escape. It feels like you can't talk or trust anyone, because someone's always going to know. That's another episode I want to discuss, is the privacy in brown households, because there is no privacy in brown households. And what's crazy is they're so shameless about it too. Like, with the comments that they would say, they're so shameless. And some of the shit that they've said in public, I genuinely have just felt so embarrassed. Like, and sometimes you just can't make the shit up. Like, they would be so sometimes racist, sexist, colorist. Like, there's so many things. And obviously they're not familiar with these terms. Or at least they are, but not to the extent like you and me. Like, we understand that this is wrong and we should not be saying shit like this to people, or about people in public. But these guys, no filter, nothing. And I guess I am grateful that they did not say any of this in English. It was always just spoken in Tamil, or our native language. So that's just like what, going out with the family was like. It was never a peaceful thing. It was never a moment where I was genuinely enjoying myself and I found myself, just genuinely having a great time, and I'm not worried about so many things. Instead, it just put a lot of pressure on me, and more, just so much more weight on me than the stuff that I've already personally been going through. And it's like, like, wonder if that's an experience people that aren't brown can relate to. Like, where you're just going out and you're trying to have a good time, but there's just always this one miserable person, or there's a group of miserable people, sorry. Yeah, a group of miserable people that just want to be miserable on purpose. Like, they cannot just enjoy, the weather or whatever activity is going on. They just want to talk about other people's business, like they can do something, or like their life is better than theirs, which is not. It just always irritated me, and to the point where I just started, at one point, just saying no. Nope. The max living social, yeah, you guys can go. I'm perfectly fine just where I am. And like, I love the older generation. And sorry, I'm reading through the notes because I wrote something that I wanted to share. So, like people who naturally fit into their culture or their environment or the environment they grew up in, their way of existing is already approved. Like, they don't have to try to be something that they are not. They have this sound understanding of like, okay, there's compromise, there's understanding between both parties, and if there's something difficult that they're going through, they can get through it together. But like in my case, it's different because I think when you grow up in a conservative South Asian household, especially one like mine where it's very religious or traditional and emotionally just absent or stagnant, there's this invisible expectation that your personality should mold itself around the family and the culture instead of the other way around. Like it's sort of ingrained in you, like implicitly, to like uphold certain rules or structures, and especially for women in brown households. Like, and it's like if you don't, and if you don't naturally, fit into their ideas of what is perfect or good, your existence starts to feel like a problem. Like you're the math equation that everyone cannot solve or is trying to solve, but comes to a dead end. And I think for me, one of the hardest parts of being the person that I am, who is one neurodivergent, so naturally my brain is just functions differently, and also as someone who is open minded and is very emotionally present and expressive, in an environment like this where you're realizing that people often interpret your openness as disrespect, my curiosity or my interest in things that are bad or shameful or sinful grows, and it becomes my form of rebellion. Like for me, growing up, having emotional like depth having emotional depth or wanting an autonomy becomes selfish and wrong and bad and shameful. And instead of like shying away and saying, oh, okay, I'm gonna do whatever you do, I just became so curious and I started seeking it. I wanted it, it drew me rather than, put me off. Like there would be conversations I've had with my family where they would say something controversial like, oh, I don't think I think more women should cover up, and I would be like, say something along the lines of like, oh, so ankles are attractive to you. And I would openly say that, by the way. And I'm not the type of person to use formal address to anyone, especially when they're being stupid. Okay, I respect my elders and I respect people older than me, but if you're saying bullshit like that, you lose my respect instantly, because there is no sound reasoning behind your argument or the point you're trying to make. Like if you're going around saying, oh, how women, which first of all, why are you talking about women's attire? Like that's not something for you to control, ever. And if you're going around talking about a woman's attire and you think that it's good that they should cover up more, be prepared to have someone that's your own blood refute or counter argue that. Because it just got to a point where I was just tired. I was so tired of just of them just believing misogynistic bullshit, believing cultural bullshit. And look, I'm a very empathetic person. I understand their circumstances because, they are of the old generation. They do not know any better, or they did not know any better, and they were also severely traumatized beings. But that does not excuse the fact that you can still learn and adapt and grow. Like you're an adult, you have the money, you have the resources to go and seek education. If we want to talk about religion, even in the Quran, it says to seek knowledge. It does not mention, it does not mention specifically, oh, don't seek knowledge if it's about a woman's attire. Like, no, it just says seek knowledge. Because learning does not just stop at university or school or whatever educational institute you go to. It does not stop there. Learning is an ever occurring process. and you will always learn something. Always learn something, and there is always room to grow and improve. But these people that I have lived with my entire life have always been the exact same. There is no growth. There is no improvement in attitude and behavior. They are always so miserable on purpose. On purpose. And I don't want to be biased and say that I was an angel and that there's nothing wrong with me. I am I am perfect and they're not. That's not what I'm trying to say. Of course not. No one is like that. I have had my fair share of moments in life with my family members that I was just straight up being rude and just gross and just not a good person, you know? But that did not come because I wanted to hurt or try to prove a point. That came out of frustration. My intent behind my outbursts and my arguments and my controversial questions came out of frustration and just so much exhaustion from just constantly being told the same things over and over again. This is bad. This is shameful. This is. Whenever I would ask a question that would contradict what they're saying, I would never get a logical, concrete, logical, calm response. It was always shut up, don't talk about this, la 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 la, or it was just straight up yelling that I'm being disrespectful, that I have no morals or no values, and how can you speak to an older person like this? And it's like, it's such a painful thing to realize that wanting basic understanding and wanting autonomy and respect for a difference in opinion and wanting all these things is such a painful thing to realize that, like, this is what I wanted as a child. You know, I didn't want, toys and Barbie. And I never played with toys, by the way. I had toys, but it was nothing, but it was not like a significant memories where, like, like 90s kids had Barbies and Tamagotchis and they had fond memories with that item. For me, what I wanted was answers. I wanted answers. Why is my aunt always screaming about her husband? Why are my cousins always fighting? Why are my parents always fighting? Why is my dad fucking crazy? And it's like, I used to have a diary because that was the one thing that was very constant in my childhood is I would write. I had a diary and I had an entry. I don't even know what happened to that diary, by the way. I'm pretty sure my parents chucked it. But I had one entry that I was like, I really want, where I was praying to God. I was also a very religiously traumatized individual. Okay, when I was a younger girl, I was taught religion out of fear, so I would write to God. Okay, and I would be like, dear God. It was a pink, just normal like notebook. It was like one of those square tiny notebooks that you would use like for your Arabic dictation if you took Arabic in high school, or I mean in like elementary school. So it was one of those books, and I was be like, dear God, why don't my parents like my questions? Why do I have such a big mouth? Please erase this from me. Or I would be like, I wish my parents understood that I want to do things a certain way that's different for theirs, but I don't mean to be rude or whatever it was. It was something that it was so sad because that's a lot to think about for a 9-year-old, 10-year-old. Like that should not even be on your mind. To be that I guess philosophical or that introspective. I don't know. It's one of those words, okay? At that age, because it's like you should be focusing on cartoons and shit, not trying to analyze why or try to find reasons as to why your parents are emotionally immature or why your family is emotionally immature, and it's just so painful because the things I wanted as a child were not literal tangible things that any child would want or what most children would want. And I don't think enough people know how exhausting it is to constantly filter yourself in your own home, to monitor your words, to behave a certain way, to dress a certain way, or to say things or to think about things that will not incite rage or whatever, like you're constantly thinking about what you're going to say in any given moment, and you're constantly thinking about how to not disappoint or how to not disrupt peace in the household because of something that you just believe in that is different to theirs. Like, for example, I have been very vocal with my family about the fact that I am not a religious person at all. I don't cover my head. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that. You do you, girl. You do you, I do me. But I do not pray. I do not. I'm not the most modest person in behavior, in language, in attire either. Like, I have my own personal journey with faith and religion and what that means to me. But I fundamentally am not a practicing devout person. Okay, so I don't do many of the things that I grew up seeing and witnessing, and that has always been a hard thing with my dad and I. That's something that we fight about quite a bit, because that he will just use it as an excuse instead of talking to me like a logical human being whenever we disagree on something. He would just use the fact that, oh, I'm talking like a kafir, which is basically a disbeliever. And so many things like that. I need to do an episode with just my dad. Oh my gosh. If that does not get me viral, y'all, I don't know what will. I'm not a religious person. That's always been a topic of conversation, and they would make jokes about it. Like, oh, she's not religious, so she just needs us. We're good, devout, religious people, and I would just be like, is that really necessary? Is that really necessary for you to just not for you to just be condescending and passive aggressive simply because I live a different lifestyle or I follow a different lifestyle than the one that I was raised in? Like, you're not going to expect every Christian to be Christian in a Christian country, right? There's always going to be, not every Buddhist is going to be a Buddhist. Not every Christian who was raised Christian is going to be a Christian. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Like, there's going to be significant moments in your life where, you're going to question, or you're going to question what stuff like this means to you. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was just a kid that never really felt connected to what I grew up being taught. I never found that spiritual connection or that peace and solitude that my family found in who their God is. And I was just met with so much indifference and so much just dismission. I was just met with a lot of dismissive behavior. This just because like certain parts of you will be misunderstood, and you would go through all of this emotional and mental turmoil with your family simply because you have a different way of life or a different way of thinking. Like, all of this could be prevented if you just opened up to me about your concerns without screaming and shouting at me about them. And you can ask me gently, calmly, in a normal way, normal, calm voice, everything present, and realize that I am not an evil person for thinking differently. I'm not an evil person because I care about LGBTQ plus communities. I'm not an evil person because I openly talk about mental health. I'm not an evil person, or I'm not trying to cause you harm just because I want to call you out on your behavior. Like, I am not the type of person to shout to get my point across. Like, I very much do not want to be doing that. That's not how I function, right? I would rather have a good, constructive, open, respectful conversation about what you find is the problem in the way I live and what I'm trying to convince you what I'm trying to convince you that I'm not, like, that I'm not like whatever, that I'm not like whatever rebellious, awful human being. Like, no, I just have difference in opinion. That's it. And what's crazy is I have actually lost friendships because of this too, because as a young girl, even in school and stuff, I was always open about this. I had never hidden the fact that, I didn't really care about, I almost put my brush, putting it over there. As a kid, I was always open about the fact that I was I was not really religious. I have told my teachers that. I have told my religion teachers that as well. Like, hey, I'm a little bit different in the sense where I don't really think about the religious side of things whenever you're asking me certain questions about life. That's just not where I am, and I prefer the more pragmatic, I guess, approach to life. And look, I am not trying to bash anyone who has a strong faith, okay? That is so admirable, and I think it's so important to know and stand firm in what you believe in. Absolutely. Faith is important. And I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm not saying that, all religious people are evil or cruel. I'm just saying that not everyone thinks the way that they do based on where they're from or where they were raised or what they were raised with. I know so many people from the religion that I grew up with that interpret certain religious rituals and religious text differently. You know, there are some people who believe that modesty in their attire is not a strict requirement, and there are some that believe that it is, and there are some that believe that certain ways of certain habits that are deemed immoral to their religion are not. They have like different ways of thinking, and I don't understand why that is more acceptable than a person who is just outwardly saying, hey, i don't really have I don't really follow organized religion. Like, for some reason it's always being hated on or prejudiced against. Like, just because someone does not follow theology does not mean that they're evil. Okay, maybe some are, but you have to look into why they are the way they are. Are they traumatized? Are they not? Were they raised with a difficult upbringing that has made them become so hostile towards a certain group of people or a certain group of faith? Like, you have to take into consideration the history, the background, where they're trying to come from. Because not everyone, I promise you, like me, do I look like an evil person to you? Do not answer that, okay? I can absolutely be evil. I'm not saying that I'm not. But do I look like an evil person right now? I'm just painting here, man. I'm just painting here, eating my popcorn, talking to you. Like, I don't mean to be hateful, or I'm not trying to demean anyone. I just want my values and my principles to be respected. Mind you, I said the word respected, meaning you don't have to agree with me, but if I'm in a situation where I am being prosecuted or I'm being physically harmed because of the way or the certain lifestyle I follow, I want you to be able to look me in the face or look me in the eye and say, hey, I'm a safe space for you. Like, that's all I'm asking. Like, if you're like, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a race. It doesn't have to be competition. Like, if you don't agree with the way I lived or the what I follow or what I know to be true, that's okay. But if I'm in a dangerous situation, I don't want you to reject me or to not help me because I just don't believe in whatever you believe in. Like, don't let it become that. And that's why I feel like our world is so horrible, is because people are just so insensitive and demoralizing. Like, we forget that there's a human underneath all this controversy or all this difference. Like, there's a human being, man, and all we need is compassion and understanding. Like, why is it so hard to be like, hey, I don't agree with what you believe in, but I still consider you a friend or a human being? Is that so hard? Is that so hard to ask for? Like, is that too much to ask for you to just respect me or for you to help me out in a situation where where my life is being threatened? Like, right? Like, you don't have to destroy my livelihood or my mental capacity just because, you don't agree with what I do. And I'm not trying to prove to you, I'm not trying to be the person to prove to you that my way is the correct way of living. That is not what I'm trying to do. You know, like I don't care. Like I know I'm wrong in certain things and I know that you are. It's just be more rational than reactive. You know, don't think that I'm always out for the worst simply because I just say no to whatever you're saying sometimes, you know? And I know some people might hear and think like, oh, everyone hides parts of themselves, right? Like everyone hides parts of themselves when it comes to when it comes to like, you know, having to monitor and like, you know, put a filter on yourself. Like everyone, oh yeah, everyone hides things for sure. I'm not trying to deny that. We all have parts of ourselves that we hide, whether it's for safety or whether it's because we just don't want people to know certain things. But this is just different. This is just me constantly analyzing every single conversation, every single situation, and you know, having kind of like a playbook of, you know, what to do where, especially when I have to be at a communal setting where, like, you know, the family is going to be there, like the entire family is going to be there. You know, it's like I have to, you know, think about what I'm going to wear because, you know, there's always going to be that one aunt, that one uncle that has an issue with everyone's existence, appearance included. And then there's always going to be that other aunt that's like, you look so cute, but you're sinful. Like, you know, there's always going to be someone in a family gathering that's going to have an issue with you, whether you want there to be an issue or not. Like, you don't even have to create one. You don't even have to say anything for them to come up with some heinous shit. And this is why this is different because it's so exhausting because you're 24/7 in just survival mode. Like 24/7 you're just thinking about, okay, what can I say that's going to make them hate me less, or what am I going to say that's not going to make things awkward. And most of the things that I believe in aren't even bad things. Like I'm not saying, oh, everyone should get naked and reject faith. No, bro. I'm just saying not everyone believes what they believe or what they were raised to believe in, you know? Like, no. I'm not telling you to be rebellious and be like, oh no, you were also traumatized like me. I'm not You should not be thinking this way. No. If my cousins came to me and told me that despite the way that we were raised, that they still found, you know, God and they're at peace with that, I would be so freaking happy because I know that they are genuine. And I know that this sort of living or this sort of lifestyle did not harm them so much to the point where they had to completely deter or turn away from a certain belief. I would be so happy. I'd be like, hey girl, I would be so supportive of that. And you notice how it didn't take long for me to do that too? Like my immediate reaction to whatever anyone says is not hate and rejection. It's okay, sure. You have something different. I have something different. Let's talk about it. You know, what do you need? How can I support you best? That is the question on my mind. You know, how can I be supportive to you and how can I make you become a better person and respect your boundaries and, you know, respect my boundaries? Like, it's not a big deal. And it doesn't take rocket science or a PhD to freaking learn this. You know, it's just simple intention. Like, look, I care about you enough as a person to not hurt you. And one thing that I do firmly believe is I think that when you grow up in an emotionally conservative environment, sorry, I'm reading from my phone, that teaches you like peace is maintained through self suppression. Like that peace is only attainable or peace is only given to you. Peace, by the way, not actual peace, but peace is only accessible if you just keep your mouth shut. If you just conform and agree to whatever they want. I'm going to ask you a question now. Does that sound like peace to you? Where you are not given the freedom or you don't have the freedom to be who you are in your environment because you're scared that it'll just upset someone. Because, in my opinion, that does not sound like freedom or peace at all. And you know, it's so funny because that itself, in the religion I was raised in, that doing that to someone also is considered a sin, a major sin actually, right? at least in the religion that I was told to follow, right? Like that's a sin to, to play because you're imitating God, because only God can decide what is sinful and what's not. Okay? Only he can do that. But like if someone in this human world is telling you that a way you act is unlawful or ungodly, they're the ones that are going to get the punishment or the the sin, I guess. Like they will be the ones that are going to be questioned on that, because fundamental thing about the religion I grew up with is always to speak peacefully to anyone, regardless. That is the main principle that anyone should follow. And it's mentioned so many times throughout the book, speak with gentle tongue. Don't be a rude human being, just because someone else is different to you. And I wish they understood that. I wish that they had actually followed what they preach. We are going to be discussing what happens when your personality does not fit your culture. I posted a poll on Instagram. I posted two polls on Instagram. One of them asking my followers to pick a certain topic to discuss for my second episode. And the other was to ask me a question, either related to the topic they chose or just a random question. So I wanted to do a little Q&A as well. So this episode is going to be busy and full of fun things. And I hope you don't mind the background. I just have random stuff all over. And matchsticks. That is my issue with religion, because, or the way my family interprets religion in general, is because they pick and choose, man. They pick and choose when people can be, sinful and when not to. Like, they will just pick out whatever they're comfortable following and just go with it. Like, they won't analyze or assess the full context behind a certain situation, And something that is not talked enough about is how hyper aware you become of other people's comfort while completely disconnecting from yourself, from giving that to yourself, and also neglecting your own emotional needs because you're too busy trying to keep the peace. Like you learn how to keep the peace, but you don't know how to exist honestly without guilt or shame or feeling like you were always the villain in the inside. And I think this is such a huge part of the South Asian experience, especially for the diaspora, especially for the women, where sacrifice and honor is constantly thrown at you. Because you can acknowledge, two things can be true. You can acknowledge the fact that your parents struggled, sacrificed, immigrated, worked so hard and provided for you, and you can also still feel emotionally suffocated in the environment that they created, in this safe space that they created, in the same roof that they gave to you. And this is what a lot of South Asian kids don't understand, is two things can be true and both can exist in the same plane. You can feel guilty. You can feel guilty and angry and frustrated at the way your life is with your family, and you can also love and be so grateful and appreciative of everything that they have given you. There is no pick one side, as much as they try to do that to you. They will always force you to pick one or the other. They can never let two things just be. Like, they can never let anything just be. It's always picking sides. It's always competition. It's always comparing you to someone that's better, or someone better to you. Like, it's never enough. It's never enough in a South Asian household. And I'm being completely honest with you. Mind you, I did not even come from a family that expected me to get straight A's, and maybe I'm lucky in that sense, because I don't know what it's like to feel academic pressure, because I got diagnosed with my learning difference. They understand that. My brain just is wired differently, so I was never going to be an A plus valedictorian student, And I think one thing that we have been so heavily raised upon is thinking that silence equates to gratitude. Like you shutting up and you not saying anything when your parents or your extended family is being verbally abusive or emotionally abusive towards you. You think that you staying silent and quiet during that whole berating session, you think that is strength or that is gratitude or that is humility or whatever. Like if someone sacrificed for you, you lose the right to acknowledge the emotional damage. Or you don't know the ability, or you don't have the ability or the skill to defend yourself in the situation. Because in your mind, your logic is fighting with theirs. What you believe and what you know to be true is fighting with theirs. And so for you, it makes sense, I guess, logically to shut up and just emotionally disconnect during that moment, you know? And you're more so trying to figure out how to get yourself out of this situation. I'm a very anxious person. I hate being yelled at, even though it doesn't surprise me and it doesn't bother me, like, extremely. Okay, so whenever I'm in a distressing situation with my family, especially after a fight, I'm not thinking about whether I am right or wrong. I'm thinking about what can I say that will just get them to talk to me again, that will not get them to slam doors and be passive aggressive to me the next day. I'm like formulating already what I'm going to do or say to make them feel more comfortable with me, rather than allowing myself the time to process the hurt and disappointment I feel. Because, my feelings, because it's not like I care about whether my feelings were acknowledged or, dismissed. Because clearly, that really deep, upsetting thing, by the way, that process of feeling that emotion and the acknowledgement of knowing that, your opinions and your boundaries were crossed and they were not met, or they were not heard or sound even, is clearly not more important than me making sure that when I wake up and they look at me in the face, they won't slam a door. Make it make sense. Like you're prioritizing the wrong things. And look, it's easy for me to say. It's easy for me to say all this now. But you don't learn this until you finally go to therapy. This is something I learned through therapy, reflection and learning how to be there for myself and learning how to be a self advocate. These are things that you should have been taught growing up, but that's just something that does not happen in most brown families. Mental health is taboo, only crazy people go to therapy. And we prioritize the wrong things. We were taught to prioritize the wrong things, especially as women. Especially as women, because this creates like a horrible inner fight where like you feel guilty for your pain because the people who hurt you are also the people who love you in the only way they knew how. Like these are the people who constantly hurt you are the same people that would lay down their life for you in any given moment. Like this part is what gets me the most. Is like I will talk so candidly and openly and bluntly about the way I was raised growing up, but at the same time I feel so incredibly ashamed and guilty because it's like as much as they were horrible in communication, in interpreting different opinions and whatever, they were also the same people who fed me, who kept asking me, oh, why don't you come to my house anymore? Or when are you free? Come over. Like, these are like the same people who were like second, third parents to me. This feeling is just such a complex thing to process and to accept and to feel because I want to be there for myself and acknowledge the fact that I'm hurt and disappointed, but at the same time, by them. And at the same time, I also feel guilty and ashamed because this is the only way that they know how to live. This is the only way that they prefer to live. They prefer the misery. They prefer the yelling, the shouting, the silence, the rejection, because this is what they've always known. And this is what they were showed when they were kids, probably. Hell yes, maybe even worse. I don't know. And a lot to deal with that. And to realize that at such a young age, too, and to be so at war with yourself and with what's around you is such a difficult thing to go through because I'm still not, even with the therapy, even with the conversations with my friends and certain family members that I've had, I still feel like I am doing something wrong. Like it wasn't them, it was me. And this is why, like, I wanted to talk about this and I wanted a space where I can just let out my frustrations and know that I won't be seen as a monster or a villain for something like this. Again, most of the things that I disagree on or I do not really believe in, but my family does, is not even big things. Like I love the LGBTQ plus community. I do think that life can be just as fulfilling and successful for a person who does not follow religion. I do think that you can have a family without needing to be married or have biological children of your own. I do believe that success isn't defined by marriage or success isn't defined by whether I could have my own family or whatever. I also believe in independence. I believe that I do not need my parents. I believe that I don't even need a family if I so choose not to. And I'm all for women's rights, and I believe in abortion, in in sex, like all of these things that go completely out the window when it comes to my family. And I also believe that not everyone is living in their true self, you know, and that it takes time and people don't realize who they are until later in life. And these are things that I do sometimes get heated upon, you know, like there are things in my life that I have prioritized, certain values that I believe in, certain ideas and concepts and constructs I believe in that I prioritize, and it's important to me. I do believe so heavily in therapy and counseling and needing to be medicated if you have to. I do believe in vaccinations. Like I believe in so many things that are not inherently evil. I don't believe that just because someone up there brought down a book of rules for me to follow to be saved is correct. Correct or wrong or whatever. Like I don't believe that that should be the standard to life. I believe that you should have the freedom and authority to pave your own way, you know, to not listen to rules and structure, because that's all I have known growing up is rules and structure, is always trying to, you know, be something I'm not for other people. So, like, I don't understand where I'm wrong here. I genuinely don't. And if you wanna debate that, if you're on the side of, let's say, my parents, for example, which is perfectly fine, let's talk about it. Don't reject me and say that I'm evil simply because it's a difference of opinion. Let's talk. I'm so happy to have this conversation. And that's the honestly think that this is why so many people from environments like mine struggle to open up about their experiences, because they're so scared and so afraid about, you know, being rejected and being thought of as you know, a person that's deviant or a person that's crazy or a person that's just evil and bad because they don't follow the things that they were raised with. Like it's I think the fear is the fact that it's never black and white. Like it can it's never my family's evil. It's never the acknowledgement that, hey, my family is the problem. Or, hey, in some cases, not mine, but in some cases, you know, my family is genuinely evil and they do not care for my best interest when I was a child and when I was an adult. You know, like being loved by people who cannot genuinely understand you beyond the limits or the restrictions of their ideas or their culture. I think one of the deepest wounds that comes from that is feeling like it's okay to not be emotionally seen, and that you are much more comfortable not having your emotional needs met, rather than having someone that is making space for that, or is or is having, you know, a relationship with someone that does prioritize that, you know, like making sure that you're emotionally met and I'm emotionally met and that we're both in a good place mentally, emotionally. And like brown families, they know your grades, they know your etiquettes, They know the closeted, covered side of you, but they do not know the human in you. They do not know the person you truly are because you're living a double life that is constantly seeking approval from them. And you are also living a life outside of them that is just who you naturally are, where you don't have to conform, where you are free to just think and say whatever. And that should never be the case in any household. Much of what I have said from my own experience and from many of our experiences is this is not normal. It's not normal to disregard your feelings and your emotions and your pain. It is not normal to always hide yourself in the people you shouldn't be hiding from in the first place. To feel like you're an alien in your own home. To feel like you are a stranger in your own home. To be so used to yelling and screaming and anger that it doesn't even bother you. In fact, I would cry and probably freak out if they were speaking to me calmly. Because I'm so used to, yelling and insults and just constant bitching. Can you even blame us for being desensitized to this? Like, yelling is, and that's why, like, even motherhood is so difficult because you're with a screaming toddler too, and then you get so used to it that it just doesn't bother you. So it's like, come up with better ways. Like, talking to me like a human being. I don't know if you've tried that, but I heard that works wonders. Emotionally and mentally. And you start becoming so emotionally private, and it's not in a way that you want to be mysterious or cool, but it's also like because you're tired of explaining yourself over and over to deaf ears. That feels so humiliating. Like, I feel so embarrassed the amount of times I have cried and begged my parents to understand where I'm coming from. Like, I have had full-blown panic attacks in front of them, and they're like, okay, yeah, just breathe, drink your medicine, and go eat. That's it. Like, it's become so humiliating, and I don't think people realize how much loneliness exists in these houses. People don't realize how strong and how miserable my depression is because I'm at home. The safe space, the roof that they were supposed to give me, the emotional roof that they were supposed to give me. Like, I am such a joyful, happy person when I am at school, when I am just not at home. But when I am at home, I am so miserable. Like, I depend on things like art and music and my headphones to keep me sane because I constantly feel like I am losing my mind trying to be something I am not. Simply because I just want to be heard. I just want to be understood. I don't wish evil on anyone and anything or anyone. Yeah, I don't. I really don't. And if I did, it wouldn't even matter because I I cannot fight someone physically because they choose to be another way. Okay, like, I simply can't because I don't know how to fight. Like, I would rather verbally spar than physically spar. Like, whatever I do does not change the fact that these people will always stay the same. And that's very painful and very hard to realize and accept. It took me so long to realize and accept that until I had, gone to therapy and they were like, yeah, it's not you, babe. Trust me, it's not you. So if you are someone that is in that position where you just feel like you're constantly being misunderstood and disrespected, and you feel like you're the reason for it, it's not. They're just very good at manipulation and leading you to believe that you are. And they will use the excuse of, oh, I gave birth to you. I gave you a roof over your head. You're not even making money, but I still put you in university and blah, 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 blah. These are basic things. Newsflash. Okay? When you decide to bring a child into this world, it is your responsibility to make sure that they are fully equipped to be a decent, functioning member of society. So yes, you are required to put them in it, to give them a good education. You are required to feed them. You are required to make sure that they have a place to sleep in. Like, ultimately, it's not up to you to decide if they're going to be the way you want them to be or not. Because they're their own human being, they're their own adult, they're their whole person, man. Like, you can't control that. Ever. I'm sorry. And okay, yes, maybe in some situations, yes, maybe you could be influenced or brainwashed or controlled, but fundamentally, you do realize that they are going to die one day, right? And you are going to be left with yourself. And God forbid, you do not know how to defend yourself, and you do not know how to self-regulate and be there for yourself emotionally, because the people in your life didn't do that to you or didn't do that for you. So it's like, what is blaming yourself and what is criticizing yourself going to do? Like, genuinely, like, they're still going to be the same people. They're still going to wake up and blame you for something because they don't want to leave you in peace. They just care about themselves, really. You do not owe them anything. And I know that's hard to believe. And I'm surprised, like, I'm saying all of this, like, very calmly, and I'm not crying. That's because I've cried my entire life. I am always crying. I hate crying now because I feels like it's the only emotion that I can bring out within myself when I'm home. Like, I'm a very different person when I'm with my friends and when I'm with people I love and genuinely they feel comfortable around, and I'm a very different person at home. This is just how I am. Like, nothing. Like, I'm gonna be a recent experience I had is I'm going through a breakup that is fucking miserable, and it's like, and I hate it, and it's made my depression even worse. I don't have the space to properly even grieve a relationship, and I'm surprised I even had one amidst all of this bullshit, because I have a lot of things about me that I need to fix or I need to improve upon. I wanted to share this with you. Yeah, here it is. Okay. I also think being naturally introspective or emotionally aware in a rigid family system is incredibly isolating, because you begin to notice patterns as a difference in opinion, and you notice how certain behaviors are just justified because that's just how things are, or that's just how they were raised. And once you become aware of this dynamics, it becomes impossible to fully participate in them the same way. It becomes impossible for you to function without hyperanalyzing, or without like accepting this realization and then going forward, because it's your every thought at this point. Because now you're just second guessing yourself, you're second guessing everything that you have learned, grew up with. Like, it creates a very specific type of emotional exhaustion that people outside of our cultures do not understand. Like, I can assure you, you ask any European, you ask any white-centered person, right? Like, people who do not come with cultures like ours, they will have no idea what you're talking about. And I think that's why so many people from our backgrounds turn to things like art, music, and like these professions where you are actively called to recognize your humanity, like you're being asked or to confront certain things about yourself that you have repressed or have gotten used to repressing. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of South Asian women are into the arts. A lot of them are into teaching and educating, and because that comes from places like this where you see how detrimental it is to live in a situation where education is so severely lacked, and also just having people who refuse to learn and grow and see something beyond what they already know. I don't think enough people talk about how it's so grieving to realize your growth may emotionally distance you from your family. Like, it's so grieving to think that things that you're healing, to things that your proactive measures to better your sanity, your emotions, whatever it is in your life that you're doing that is like counseling or therapy to unlearn the shit that you were raised with and internalized with. It's so grieving to realize that you have to do certain things, and you have to make decisions on certain things that will cause you to become more distant towards your family, to protect yourself. And that is the bravest and the most difficult thing to do. And that's why a lot of us kids leave. I'm not just talking about leaving houses and families and cutting them off. I'm talking about Susie side. I'm talking about depression. I'm talking about, other things too. Like, and I want to fully preface this by saying that, like, not everyone that has experienced the same things that I have experienced or what my culture has taught a lot of us. I'm not saying majority of them experience depression and suicide, but that is something that happens to them when they're kids. Maybe they just have never acknowledged it or have done the reflection and the inner work to realize there's certain behaviors and coping mechanisms. But at some point, especially if they were women, like, we were freaking miserable, or we are still miserable. Like, the loneliness, the depression, the the attempts, like, the need to just leave and be free. There are some days where I just feel like I can never escape them. The people I love, who are also the same people that hurt. Like, there's this growing fear that I'll always be where I am, and I'll never to have a peaceful mind, because I'm already struggling with myself naturally, and also just struggling with the environment that I'm in, you know. And I feel like I just can never escape it, and it's affected me so much that I had to leave a perfectly good relationship because of my mental state and the way I am. Because I'm not in a position where I am growing, or I'm just not in a position where I want to be at, okay? And you can say, oh, Mariam, give yourself grace. Oh, this is just, you're still young, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't feel young. I was not young for a very long time, babe. And that's why, like, I hate, sometimes people are like, oh, you're so wise for your age. You're so, like, mature for your age, or, like, you have so much wisdom. And it's like, no. I wish I didn't. I wish I realized all of this later in life. Not now. Not when I'm 20. But that's the reality for most of us, like, we spend more time being adults than we do children. I could not tell you a single time in my childhood where I had sat down and just paint, because I was too busy freaking out over what my parents would think if I told them that I was feeling Susie side, or if I was, harming myself. Like, would they would they be open to an honest conversation, or will I be told to pray? Like, how's that for episode 2, huh? If you're still with me, thank you so much. I mean, this has just been on my mind. You trust me, and you wanted to hear from me. And I did promise hard stuff, and you can love. The main reason I wanted to film this episode is for you to understand that you can love and admire your parents, but also acknowledge the fact that they were awful. Emotionally, at least. I want you to understand that it's okay to recognize how painful it is to feel emotionally depleted with your own home. To feel like your mind and your personality developed in a different direction that your environment cannot hold with grace and compassion. Your home is supposed to be the one place where your existence does not require explanation. Your home is supposed to be that one place where you are free and safe to just be who you are. That is what a home is. That is going to conclude my little talk. Now we're going to get into some questions that you have left me that I'm very excited to answer. Okay, I'm going to pull it up now. Sorry, my phone's like... We both can have a good night after this, or a good morning, or a good evening, wherever you are in the world. Because I spoke about something that's very heavy and very real, and sometimes it's just exhausting, and I understand that, and I'm sorry that if you feel exhausted. But before I go into the questions, I want to talk about one fear that I have, right? I want to expand upon a fear that I just mentioned, where, like, I fear so deeply that I will just always be in this environment, that I will always be in the same mindset, in the same place of just feeling like a stranger and feeling like I can't escape. Like, I feel like I will always be miserable at mind, and That's just my biggest fear. Because, like when my cousins started leaving home to, become their own person and go be an adult, I just couldn't help but feel so left out. Like, what if I can never be that? What if I can never leave? What if I can never be strong enough to leave? That's something that's been weighing down on me now, especially because I will be graduating soon and I have to think about university and career and so much. I have so much to think about when it comes to, paving my own life. And it's scary. And I don't feel like I have enough time to do anything. And I feel like, at the same time, I feel like every day is just moving without me. I feel like everyone is doing things that are so amazing and cool and fun and productive and having all these cool experiences, but I just can't because there are some days where my mind is not good for company. And I am a danger to myself, and sometimes I just don't know how to help myself even. I just want to stay in bed and cry and sleep all of it away. I feel like I will never have someone that will truly understand me. And I feel like I can never open up to the people that I love so much. So much to think about in that regard too, like my future, my career, and I can't even do that because much of my time is spent trying to make myself okay here. It's never enough. That's what I feel like. That I'm never enough, that my mind is never enough. Like, I always feel like I should be doing more. It's sad. It's something that I'm trying not to beat myself up for, because I can't blame the situation I'm in. I deserved a safe space. But unfortunately, that was not my reality. And there's nothing I can do to change that. Because I'm already 20, I'm not a kid anymore. The best I can do is just think of her when I'm doing stuff like this, painting and filming a video, doing things that I know she would have loved if she had just been given the space to do that, instead of being like an adult when she should have been a kid. That was so exhausting and that was so intense, but we are going to go through some of the questions that you guys have given me. See, number 1, I'm going to put the questions up somewhere here, okay? So don't worry. The question that deserves the most out of me, and that is, what is your favorite sandwich? Oh my gosh, this is a crazy question because I love sandwiches and always have a sandwich whenever I can. And my favorite sandwich actually is a classic Nutella sandwich. I'm a sweet girl. I have a very bad sweet tooth. That is just a problem at this point. So I always need something sweet, and my Nutella sandwich is my go-to. But if you're talking savory, I love a grilled cheese. Grilled cheese with chicken and spices. I don't eat it the traditional way. I like the traditional way, but I usually do that when I'm like sick and I can't really taste anything. But okay, so the second question. If you were guaranteed the answer to one question, what would it be? Oh my gosh, this is a loaded question because I have to think about this. Wow. I'm gonna give you an example. So if younger me came up to me now and asked me of if we're ever going to be happy, and if I knew that answer, I would tell everyone. I would scream it from the rooftops. If you came to me and you asked me, Mariam, are we ever going to be happy? And I could give you a clear, concrete, for sure, straightforward answer with evidence, I guess, I would tell you in a heartbeat, because that would have just eased so much of my worries and stress and mental just discombobulation, So guess that. If I knew exactly and for sure that I would be happy. Yeah, that's what I would say. Number three, what does happiness mean to you? See what I did there? Okay. This is also a loaded question. All of these are loaded questions. Wow. Okay. Um, what does happiness mean to me? Happiness to me means that I am safe to be myself in all aspects of my life, financially, mentally, emotionally, physically. Happiness to me means that I am doing something that I love, not only because I love it, but also because it helps people. And happiness is when I finally become fully independent and I am not in the environment that I'm in. You know, having a partner that loves me and having a strong support system. Okay, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Yeah, 10 years, I see myself hopefully in a different country, hopefully as a different person, completely, physically, mentally, socially, everything. I want to be completely different than the vision that I am in now, because the version I am in right now, I'm not really proud of, because she's just very hurt, and I do not want to be in this state anymore. I hope to be having a fulfilling, amazing career here in the arts. I hope it's full on media and do cool things like, I don't know, be in a movie, be in a TV show, release music, do all of that. I see myself becoming the person younger me can be proud of in 10 years. I also see myself being, hopefully, in a very healthy, amazing relationship where I'm not using their kindness, I'm not taking their kindness for granted because I couldn't help myself. So, yeah, that's where I see myself in 10 years. 5 is, are you in a relationship? No, but I recently got out of one. And it's my first ever relationship, actually, that I just got out of. So I'm experiencing breakup. I called it off because I just was not being the best partner I knew I could be. And I didn't want them to wait for me or to grow resentful simply because I couldn't be 100% with them. This relationship has kind of scarred me enough to not be in a relationship for at least a few years. I just have a lot to figure out, and I'm so grateful for this love and for my former partner because they have just truly been the best human being to me, and they've just been so amazing, and genuinely I am envious of their future partner because they won't even realize how incredible this person is. Yeah, I won't I have made the conscious decision to not involve myself romantically in other people's lives because I know myself better than anyone, and I know when my mind can be absolutely nasty. And I know when my mind is being nasty, I will somehow become nasty. And I don't want that on anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone because I'm so done being hurt by the people I love the most that I just can't fathom doing that to someone. So I plan on just staying single. I'm ready again until I am done grieving and I am done. I can be a better partner, until I can be a better human being to myself and to my partner and to my future partners or partner. I don't know. I will just be working towards myself. And I want myself to be the healthiest I could be before I decide to let someone in again. That does not mean I'm avoiding all relationships. I am open to falling in love, absolutely, but I will just be more cautious. Um, okay, number 6. Why do some people feel like outsiders even if they are surrounded by people? Because people are intimidating and scary and they don't understand what they don't see or what they already know. I am surrounded by people, both in my personal and also in my social life, but I still feel like an alien and a goblin, and Sometimes that's just how it is. But please understand that it is never about you. Your mind will tell you that it's about you, that it's a you thing, but no. People are just scary, okay? And people are intense, and you never know how someone's going to react to certain things or certain quirks that you have. And that's something that life does not always teach you. That's something you don't learn at school. The best thing you can do is just be there for yourself and become your own friend and learn that and understand and accept that you deserve people who love you and accept you exactly the way you are. Because everyone deserves that. I know if my family had that, they wouldn't even be what they are now. But unfortunately, not everyone gets the same cards. And we just have to make do with what we have. Number 7. Is it better to love the way you naturally love or to love someone the way they want to be loved? Oh, this is a very interesting question. First of all, love is a feeling that we all are capable of having, yes. However, sometimes that feeling is not just enough. You know, like people say, "Oh, I'm in love with him." Yes, okay, but that's a feeling that comes and goes. It's not a linear thing. And that's what people confuse, or that's what I've always believed before I had even entered a relationship. Love is all about showing up and making the effort to be with this person constantly every day, even when you're fighting, even when you're frustrated, even when you're sad and depressed, when you're happy. Even like love is a choice. Loving someone is a choice. You can absolutely love someone, but then it's evident that you don't through your actions and the effort that you put into in a relationship. And your question asks that, is it better to love the way you naturally love or to love someone the way they want to be loved? That is not up to me to tell you. That's completely your own choice. But in my opinion, no one has a certain type of way to love. So when you say it's better to love the way you naturally love or to love someone the way they want to be loved, it's both to me. Because one, we all have our quirks and the way we show affection to other people. Some are more physical, like myself. Like I'm a very touchy person. I like touch, so I love to hug and I love to hold hands and shake hands and do all that. But my former partner, and my former partner was the same, but they liked acts of service. And so, like, they would always do things for me, pull my chair, feed me, get me stuff. It was so cute. And loving someone the way they want to be loved is a communication thing. If I feel like that I'm not being appreciated in a relationship, I will communicate that to you. I will be like, hey, you're kind of being distant with me and I don't really know why. Can we talk about it? It's all about communication, and you have to genuinely be interested in the person. It's not even about love itself romantically. It's about interest. Like, are you genuinely interested in what this person has to say, what this person has to do, what this person is, how this person presents themselves? Like it's so much about the effort and the conscious decision to be like, hey, this is my person. I love them. How am I going to show up for them every day? And how am I going to show up for them, especially when they are hurt or when they are experiencing an emotion that isn't making them feel safe or regulated? So yeah, my answer is both. Love how you love and love how they want to be loved when they ask for it. And they don't necessarily have to ask. It can be implicit too. Number 8. How do you deal with depression? I don't. I survive. There are two sides to my depression, because my depression is not the kind of depression where I'm just in bed in health. Some days I have been that way, I'll be honest with you, yes, but my depression is very functional. So I can, I'm still doing stuff, but there are still the thoughts in my head making me feel like that could potentially become a danger to myself, you know? Like, yeah, so there's two sides. One, it depends on how long I am depressed for. I'm always depressed. Like, depression part of me now. Like, but there's two sides to it. So, once is the self destruction. So, I'm neglecting my health in every aspect, and I am feeling violent towards myself. And the second is the functional side, which is the one that I'm currently, or the one I have the most experience with. And that is, I'm still feeling violent. I'm still having violent thoughts and feelings and certain ideas that kind of scare me, but I am still, cleaning myself, eating. I'm still functioning like a normal human being. It's just, I've gotten really good at pretending not to be miserable when I am. So, and that comes with practice and time, because when you were raised to hide everything, it's just become a part of you, and it's very hard to unlearn. 9. How do you deal with bullying? This one came from one of my friends. And because I have told them stories about how girls are just mean to me. High school freaking sucks because everyone is cliquey and everyone is picking sides. And again, like this episode, I have also faced critique and ridicule and hate more times than not over just things that I believe in. The bullying I experienced was not about my physical appearance or my academic ability. I wasn't bullied because I was a nerd, or I wasn't bullied because of the way I looked. It was more so the reason of the things that I believe in, and also because during high school was when my mental illness really became physical. So I was experiencing a lot of episodes, and there were some times where I was just saying things that I don't remember saying. And obviously, people felt uncomfortable, and people did not know that this was, just a child that was going through a lot. And naturally, they started making fun of it, and they started speaking about me in Arabic. So, because predominantly of the people in my class are Arab, so they have made insults and have even complained to school about me, by the way, which is wild. So I was in a pretty distressing situation, but there's also an age gap between me and the girls, so I understand that I had enough compassion and self awareness to understand that all of the things that I've been through because of these girls came from a place of immaturity that they will not recognize until life hits them. And I also know that they are kids, or at least younger than me. They're all younger than me by a few years. So they do not know what it's like to see a person suffer so greatly that they just become something completely different. So I understand that it has to do with social norms, conservatism. It also has to do with just not understanding mental health. And that is why I wanted this podcast. The bullying did affect me. It made me sad, and I'm very sad because I love people so much, and I'm a very sociable person, but I don't have many friends, and I don't have a best friend, which I'm so sad about, because I feel like everyone has a bestie, and I'm just here like, hey, my depression is my bestie. But yeah, so there were times where I was hurt, but I fundamentally understood that it's not because of me, it's because of them. And the main thing I dealt with, or the main thing that helped me deal with the shit that I was going through, was the fact that I was never going to see these people ever again. They're not consistent in my life, or they're not meaningful enough to me that they will affect me in the future, So that's the biggest motivator, is the fact that I know that the situation is only temporary, and I know that I will never ever see these people in my life. So that's how I dealt with it. But I understand there are different ways to go about it, and it's hard for most people because bullying is never easy. But that's just how I deal with it. Number 10, do you always feel sad, or does the sadness go up and down throughout the day? This is a good question because it's both. I am always sad. That is the baseline feeling for me. That is the normal feeling for me. And it fluctuates day to day. People don't realize that depression isn't one feeling. It is so individual to the person going through it. And for me, I'm always depressed or sad But some days it's better, some days it's not. So it just depends on whether my routine is disrupted. If I have a solid routine, so I paint every day. If I'm not painting one day or for a couple of days, I will just be in a pissy mood. Either I'll be too sad or I'll be just annoyed. Also, and I'm doing things that I that are important to me, I can self-regulate better, and I am more present in here. Number 11. If you died today, who do you think would stand the longest at your grave, even after everyone has left? Okay, if it's not my significant other, if I had one, then I don't think anyone would. Or at least I don't think anyone would stay long enough. I don't think I would mean that much to people enough for them to do that. Which is morbid to say because, that's probably not true. Who knows? But I genuinely don't believe that anyone should or would stay that long at my grave. And I wouldn't want them to. I don't want them to be miserable because I had left. I would just prefer it that way. I don't want people to be miserable because of my passing. To be remembered through my art. Yeah. Number 12. Sorry. I don't have my glasses, so I'm like trying to zoom in with my pupils. Okay, so number 12. Have you ever had times where you feel like you're pretending to be human? That is me every day, babe. Depression, what people don't realize is depression is not normal. It does not make you feel normal. It makes you feel like a stranger in your body. It makes you feel like someone else is controlling you. And that is my constant feeling too. Not my more normal feelings. I don't feel human. There are some nights I'm up and I'm just like, why am I even alive? Like, not in a, oh, I want to kill myself way, but in a more like, just like, what's the point of my existence? Like, if I was born this miserable and have stayed this miserable throughout my life, why am I even here at this point? Depression has a tendency to not make you feel human. And that I know is a constant feeling for any and everyone. But obviously, I'm not an expert, so that could be different as well. But in my opinion, that's just what I've gathered from reading about other people's experiences with depression. 13. How do you function throughout the day with your disorder? Or in brackets, disorders. I'm going to give you two answers. Number 1 is actually with me, and that is my headphones. When I kid you not, I wake up with these things on and I go to sleep with them on. One of the main things that I struggle with day to day is sleep. It's very difficult for me to stay asleep and to fall asleep. So my headphones is so important to me for that. And yeah, my headphones. And the second thing is I don't think of my disorders as disorders. I just think of me living. I mean, that's just me. I have humanized myself so much and understood and unlearned the fact that I'm not crazy or a maniac because I struggle with some things. So I just function like any other human being, except my thoughts are just morbid most of the time. And I have periods where I just want to cry forever and ever and ever, and it just doesn't stop. Like, I will not even have emotion now, and I will just have tears down my face. It's just how it is. If I'm really feeling it one day, I will resort to the things that make me feel safe. So art, food, things like that. So yeah. And the last and final question is, how do you stay true to yourself in a brown household? Again, headphones, block shit out. Tune shit out. When you feel yourself becoming so irritated and frustrated with your situation, just put them headphones on, girl, guy, person. Just put those headphones on, because I'm telling you, my biggest advice for anyone who has a family like mine, or has experienced being in a family like mine, or knows someone who's going through what I'm going through, get a good pair of headphones. I'm saving up for some really nice headphones, good ones that are noise canceling. Oh, love noise canceling headphones. So invest in a really good pair of headphones because that will save you. And also, do what you love. Make that a hobby. Prioritize that. Pretend like it's a case study or like an exam that you have coming up. And that's exactly what I do. Prioritize content and things that bring me genuine joy or relief. It doesn't even have to be joy or happiness, it's just relief. So, yeah, that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for staying this long. I can't believe I yapped so much and I barely touched the popcorn. I'm sorry. I just wanted to yap. And thank you so much if you've stayed throughout this entire podcast. I can't believe I yapped for so long. I'm also on my laptop, so I really hope I can edit on here. Otherwise, this is just going to be crazy long. But thank you so much for staying with me. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for your questions. Hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are safe. I hope that this podcast held you despite you realizing some hard truths, maybe about yourself or about me or whatever. And I hope you can give yourself grace, and I hope that you can find a friend in me. I will always be an advocate for you, and I hope you can see that in me. So thank you so much for joining me today. And again, I was not a professional in any means. I'm just a girl sharing my life with you on the internet. So I hope that you are okay. I hope that you are safe, and I hope that you have a good night or day or week. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. If you liked it, if you would like to be a part of the Open Wound Club, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, doing all of that, and comment down below what you want to see next. And comment down below what your reaction was to this episode. How did it make you feel? What are you going through? Let me in, because I feel like I said so much and it's a lot to process, so feel free to brain dump here because it will always be a safe space. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have a wonderful day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, and I will see you on the next episode. Goodbye.